It would mean so much to me if you'd take a moment and hit the subscribe button if you found value in these 5 steps. I know it may seem like no big deal to you, but it truly means the world to me. Step 5 is what I promised. Here we are. We're ready to map your goal out. It's where all 4 parts of the previous steps are brought together. What leads to failure of goals is this: just making one big to-do list and trying to hammer it all out. What leads you to success is this: knowing what the goal is actually based upon and creating a to-do list that supports that. Those 2 things are quite different. People tend to work towards goals as if the goal is the very thing that they're actually after. But by now we know, and you should have a clear understanding, that the goal is never what we actually think it is. It's always about those 4 words that come back to creating the feelings that you imagine you're going to feel once you've achieved the goal. Isn't much wonder that you can't stay motivated to do what's needed to in order to get to where you're working towards going, when what you're working towards isn't actually what you want. Within step 5, there's 3 separate parts. First, what I'm going to do is I'll give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing. And then in part 3, which is where the magic happens, I'll show you how you decide what actually needs to be included not only in your to-do list, but in your life. In part 1, you're going to map out your goal by creating a timeline of quarters. So if your goal is to be achieved in a year's time from now, you'll split your year up into quarters. If you want to achieve your goal within a month from now, you're going to split your month up into weeks. Once you've determined what your quarters are, you're going to begin to list out what you know your main tasks are going to need to be. Now, what this does is it's going to visually give you all your major tasks at a glance. So your final quarter is obviously going to be achieving your goal. I find that working your way through this backwards is easiest. So your end goal is going to be on your final quarter. What's the step that needs to come before that for your 3rd quarter? And then what's the step that needs to come before that for your 2nd quarter? Part 2 is about creating a calendar, which is a year at a glance. And what this does is help support our nervous system when things begin to feel a little too hectic. Under each month, take a minute to write down the dates of anything that you want to be certain you don't miss. Personally, what I do, I like to keep only the dates of things that don't change from year to year here. And I do that because I love to be able to just duplicate this exact calendar year after year. So far, what we've created is our quarterly to-do list. We just completed our year at a glance. Now we're going to move on to creating a more detailed month at a glance calendar. First, you're going to transfer anything from your yearly calendar over to this month at a glance calendar. What we do from here is begin to decide what to pull in from your quarterly timeline. Let me give you an example. Our 1st quarter had 2 main tasks. The first was to begin the severance process of our property, and the second was to contact our mortgage company and discuss paying off our mortgage early. Each step, task, or action needs to be scheduled individually. Don't make the mistake of simply leaving this at your one main task, which in our case was, let's say, begin the severance process of our property. Breaking it down is what creates ease in our mind rather than resistance due to overwhelm. What does beginning the severance process of our property include? Well, I listed out each individual task. They included measuring the property to be severed, creating the sketch they required, contacting the township office for a preliminary inquiry, requesting a list of associated fee schedules, submitting the formal application, and providing payments to each of the township divisions. And here we are where the magic happens, which is part 3. This is the part that's going to be different than anything you've ever done before when working towards a goal. This is where we break it down into weekly and daily to-dos, but it's so much more than just that. This is where you move from waiting to live the life achieving your goal is going to create into living it right now, so that success in your goal is actually created. It's important for this step to always keep your 4 words at the front of your mind. You already know each task you need to do because it's scheduled on your monthly calendar, but that alone is not going to keep you motivated and keep you moving forward. With this daily and weekly calendar, there's 3 parts to each and every day. The first part is choosing the one task that will make the biggest impact on moving you forward. Now, looking back at your month at a glance, if you have something scheduled for this date, that's going to be that one task. The second part is to choose 3 smaller tasks that will directly support the way that you know you want to feel. In other words, actions that align with your 4 words. Now, the third part is to list up to, but no more than, 5 smaller tasks that in the end will help you stay on track. What I mean by this is, if one of your words is energized, what's something small that you can do to bring more of that feeling into your life? Do you need to declutter a closet or a bedside table so that when you look at it, it doesn't feel chaotic or too busy? Sometimes that external chaos leads us to feel drained and exhausted. That does not align with energized, does it? If one of your words is healthy, what small action might you take to support your health? Maybe you're going to take some time to meal plan or meal prep. Maybe you're going to commit to drinking a glass of water before your coffee or tea in the morning. Maybe you're going to organize or edit your cupboards to remove items that aren't healthy. Perhaps you're going to schedule a walk in the woods, time to journal, connecting with a friend. It's up to you what you choose. It simply needs to leave you practicing what creates the feelings that you're truly longing to feel. I wanted to take a minute here and share with you that while I plan out our year at a glance and our month at a glance, a full year in advance, I only plan out my days and weeks a week or 2 in advance. I'm a person who needs the freedom to ebb and flow. I know that as soon as I feel tied down, I'm going to resist doing anything. I also know that my tendency is to rebel against the things that even I want for myself when things begin to feel overwhelming. I like to remind myself that what makes me feel a certain way this week may not be what makes me feel that way next week. I truly believe that we need space to play with this so that the way it makes us feel propels us forward rather than holds us back. I've created this system for us, and it's much more than a calendar or a to-do list. This is where I ensure that we feel the way we want to feel. It's how our values are upheld. It's how our mindset stays on point. In some ways, you could say that this is my Bible for life. Each day I come here, and the first thing I do in the morning is I take a few minutes to list out 3 things that I'm grateful for. I don't make it long and drawn out. I don't overcomplicate it. I just simply add them in point form. Now, you might find this sounds a little cliche. However, after all my years of studying spirituality, energy, and personal growth, one thing I know for certain is that if you're not grateful for what you have in the here and now, you'll never be given what it is that you desire tomorrow. Further to that, this truly supports staying in a positive mindset. It's really hard to be negative and crabby and feel drained when you're in the energy of gratitude. The next thing I do is I focus on true connections. We're in a world where we've never been more connected, literally, and yet we've also never been more disconnected. I take the time each day to ensure that in some way I connect with at least 3 people who I deeply care about. One of my deepest values is actually connection. And I know that in this busy world, we easily get caught up in things that take up our time. Unfortunately, in the grand scheme of things, many of those things that take up our time are meaningless, and they just keep us busy being busy. I really want to ensure that each day I do what's most important to me, and that's foster true connection. I've also created a space where I can check in with myself each month. I like to focus on 3 areas, which are emotionally, physically, and spiritually. What this does is it lets me reflect back each month. It lets me see where I've grown and how I'm feeling. It also shows me if there's patterns each month of, let's say, less desirable things, that maybe I want to look at these deeper. Maybe I want to work on them. And let's not forget, because it's as important to celebrate our wins, this also lets me reflect back on improvements I've made and the celebrations that I really should be having. My brain dump page helps me to free up space in my very busy mind. It lets me jot down any ideas that I might want to come back to, and it keeps everything in one spot. I am a person that can have journals everywhere, and if it's not journals, it's pieces of paper all over the house. I love this section because it keeps it here and I can reflect on it easily. I like to keep a section for my business, for my marriage, and for me personally. And in it, I could include things that I might like to try, anything that I want to learn more about, and maybe it includes experiences that I like to have with my husband. Growth is another one of my core values, and so it feels only appropriate to include a section for expansion. This is where I note things that I want to read, things I want to learn, things that I want to experience that are going to support my personal and spiritual growth specifically. And then finally, we come to what's led to some of my greatest success in creating new habits. This is what I like to call a success tracker. I've designed this around our 4 words. You would design yours around yours. I ask myself what activities create the feelings that I truly desire to feel. And you'll notice that this includes things that in the end also supports our main goal. Our goal was to be mortgage and debt free by December 31st, 2021, while enjoying winter in other parts of the world. Our 4 words are disciplined, energized, healthy, and vibrant. The things that I've prioritized for myself to support this is yoga and or the gym, meditation, reading and learning, meal planning, meal prepping, uploading these videos, taking my herbal supports, reducing coffee and alcohol, organizing and minimizing, weekly check-ins and monthly check-ins with Pascal, and monthly financial check-ins. Each time I do one of these things, I circle the date that I did it. You could kind of think of this like a rewards chart for getting a child to do their chores. I don't use it in a way to beat myself up for not doing something every day. How I like to use this is if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I come here to see, am I doing what I know is going to make me feel the way I want to feel? If not, what can I commit to increasing or maybe need to decrease? This helps me not to fall into those old thoughts of I'm already doing everything I can, or it's too hard, or things aren't working, all those old stories we used to tell ourselves. It really holds me to being self-responsible without any excuses. I get to see it in black and white. I either did it or I didn't do it, and that's the end. So I really hope that through these 5 steps, you have been able to not only determine what it is you want most in this big, bold, beautiful life of yours, but that you're well on your way and are ready to start mapping it all out. I would truly appreciate if you would hit the subscribe button if you've received value from these 5 steps. Now that we've completed these 5 steps, I cannot wait to share with you more of not only our journey, but your journey as well. This is where we get to see huge shifts due to the tiniest of actions, and that is something that always leaves me incredibly excited. See you next week.